Three things. What are the three things all of our cultural leaders have in common? You know, if you've watched the show for any length of time, you've heard me say this 1,000 times, so you already know. But what are those three things? And when I say our cultural leaders, I want you to understand what I mean. I'm not just talking about America, and I'm not just talking about politicians. Cultural leaders are much more than just politicians. Yes, they're part of it, but our entertainment leaders, our business leaders, leaders in various fields like medicine, and science, and sports, and all of our cultural leaders in the West, what do they all have in common now? It's all bad, but what do they have in common now? One, no love of country. Because we're going to talk about the WEF tonight. Should you actually care? It seems far away. Switzerland? I don't even know where that is on a map. Okay, they're meeting in some fancy town. Or what is it? But one, no love of country. This will apply tonight, don't worry. No love of country. What does that mean? Well, you see, you wake up in the morning, and whenever you start to dive into the news, maybe you watch I'm Right, and that's your only news thing for the day. Maybe you listen to the radio. Maybe you get up first thing and you're on your phone and you're looking up articles and things like that. But no matter what happens, when you look at something that's going on in America, oh no, illegal immigration and taxes and spending and the debt and things like that, here's how you look at it. And here's how I look at it. You look at it through the lens of, is this good for the country? Is this bad for the country? And when you want something done about it, when there's a problem, when you notice a problem, you approach the solution as what's best for the country. Oh no, we have too many illegal immigrants coming in. What's best for the country? Hey, let's find a way to stop the illegal immigrants from coming in because you're considering the country. Oh no, the debt's too high. What should we do? Again, you're thinking about the country. Let's reduce our spending. That would be better because you're looking at it through that lens. But one thing you must understand and accept is this. None of our cultural leaders, zero, not one, none of them look at anything through that lens anymore. Country, flag, patriotism, these things seem beneath them. They would never look at anything in that way. They don't ever consider the country. Many of them actually hate their own country, but even the ones that don't, they're really indifferent to it. When you hear the national anthem played at a sports game and you sit there and you put your hand over your heart and you take your hat off, as you should do, but you take your hat off, you put your hand over your heart, and then at the end, at the crescendo, when you get a little misty, looking at the flag, and it's America, right? These people haven't had that feeling in years, if ever. Nothing. They stand up with their hand over their heart and just pretend. That's one. Characteristic number one. Characteristic number two, no connection to the real world. And boy, does this apply to the World Economic Forum and their meeting right now. And this is what I mean. You have bills. You really, no matter your income level, you're probably feeling inflation. You're suffering at the grocery store, looking at prices, a little eye-popping. Maybe you're pricing a home improvement. Maybe you're thinking about buying your first home. Maybe you got laid off. Maybe, whatever the case may be, when the price of groceries goes up 10, 15%, man, you feel it. You feel it. Because you're a normal person with bills to pay and things like that. No one attending the World Economic Forum has ever really lived in that life. All these people are rich kids, and they went right from being rich kids into some elite university somewhere, Harvard, Oxford, Wharton School of Business, perfectly manicured lawns, no crime, everything's very safe. And then they went right from that into media or politics. Either they're working for a congressman or a senator or some show on MSNBC or a think tank somewhere. And these people have never lived in a world where you have to pull up your phone and, hold on, let me check my bank account before I decide how much gas I'm going to put in my car. These people have never sat down with their wife or their husband and said, okay, honey, well, times are tight. This is the money that's coming in. This is the money we have going out. Hey, what can we cut? Should we cut cable? Can we reduce our cell phone plan? These people have never had these conversations. They have no connection to the real world. And three, and this is probably the most important thing you must understand about all the cultural leaders of the West, and most definitely everybody at the World Economic Forum. You see, how you see yourself in relation to the world is going to be huge for how you conduct yourself. Do you see yourself as simply a person, not better, not worse than anyone else? A unique person, don't get me wrong, you are special, you're uniquely created, but you're just a person. You're not better, not worse, you're just a person, and you're hoping to live a good life and raise a good family and don't stay out of everyone's way, that kind of a thing. That's a good, healthy way to look at life. You should understand none of these people see themselves that way. None of them. We'll get to that in a moment, too. These people see themselves as your kings and your queens. They don't view, he's the same and he's the same and we're all just, cogs in the wheel, baby, trying to get along. No. You're an uneducated peasant. You don't know what's best for you. You don't know what's best for your country. You don't know what's best for the planet. You're just an uneducated, stupid peasant. They are your kings and your queens. So yes, they're going to have access to things you don't have access to, private planes, steak dinners, things like that. Of course, they're going to have all that, but more than that, they need to tell you how to live because you don't know how to do that. You want so many things that you shouldn't have, and they'll be there to decide what you can and can't have. Which brings us to the other thing you need to take from the World Economic Forum before we get to all the video and our great guests and things like that tonight. You need to understand this about all the leaders of the West, including in America, your administrative state, politicians, entertainers, educators, whatever the case may be, and everyone at the World Economic Forum. When they get together at these conferences and in private moments, they talk about who the enemies are. Everyone has enemies, right? Who's the enemy? And I need you to understand this. They're not having some big conference right now, some private one off camera, discussing, China, big threat. They're not having these private meetings and actually discussing Russia. As much as they like to show they're against Vladimir Putin. Well, let's get the Russians. They're not discussing Russia. They think the enemy is you. You, your freedoms, that meat you want to eat, that car you want to drive, you even want to be able to say whatever you want. That's the true threat to these people. That's the true enemy. And that's the one they admit frequently they intend to overcome.
We have the ability to collaboratively build a more peaceful, resilient, inclusive, and sustainable world. But to do so, we need to overcome the most critical fragmentation. And the most critical fragmentation is between those who take a constructive attitude and those who are just bystanders, observers, and even go into the negative, critical, and confrontational attitude.
Why? You're just a bystander. Who do you think you are, peasant, being so critical? You see, they have meetings and they talk about the enemy, and the enemy is you.